maintaining as the price of petrol and that of diesel is what the fuel marketers or the oil marketers in the country are going to benefit from that particular levy. But then that opens a different conversation as well, because within that specific line that they're going to utilize the petroleum development levy then to pay or to cushion the oil marketers just to get that difference. That's where a long-standing conversation about independent oil marketers in this country, or the ones who are called the small oil marketers, but we don't know whether they call them small or not, because the 800 or so of them in the country account for 50% of this particular industry's segment. So they're not small per se, they are independent, making 50%, which is quite needed, especially when we're talking about distribution of this particular commodity to the rural areas of the economy, which is also quite important. Now, the conversation around this is that the margins that the independent oil marketers in the country have been making, not good. Why? Because if you look at the policy then of this particular industry, they say they've not been identified in it, in the sense that they're looked as multinationals who have bigger volumes, so their margins could be healthy, despite the profits that have been associated in this particular industry. So what are they calling for? Number one, they're calling for the complete removal of VAT and other incentives then if their business is going to make sense. And I say that because right here on Lookuptv, we've interviewed some of them who've said, if you pay all your taxes and then factor in your running cost of this business, 1.7 million shillings could give you a profit margin of 10,000 as a return on investment, which makes you wonder, is it true? And if so, then do we need to have a bigger conversation around this area, and with whom? There are associations that are already pushing for that, and joining us right here to have this conversation then around taxation and margins and how we need to look at multinationals as we come close to the end of the year and start 2023 on a good note is Irene Kimathi, who's the chair, Mount Kenya East Petroleum, I might say MKPD. Irene, a long conversation. Let me take you back to where this conversation needs to begin. If you look at the headlines that we've run as the media, in this latest review that happened on December 14th, our introduction was relief for consumers in the country as fuel prices in Kenya remain unchanged. That's the picture. The other picture that we didn't look at is everybody happy with this latest review? Let me begin from there. As an independent oil marketer, are you happy with this latest review? Let me begin from there.
Now, you know, as a business person, what you're looking at is that you're selling and you're making profits to be able to stay in the market.
Yes.
And the work of the government is to protect its citizens, and especially business people, because they are the ones that pay taxes and they give jobs to the citizens. Now, as the oil dealers, especially the independent ones, when we talk about the independent ones, we are talking about the people that are not franchised by the big companies. We have few big companies that are multinationals. And it's good to have multinationals because they bring into the economy so much knowledge and even excellence. They give us a benchmark. But also when we don't strike a balance between the multinationals who are in the country to make money definitely and the citizens who are trying to eke a living from the economy, then you can strangle the small ones. Why? If you make policies looking at the multinationals multinationals, they'll give you ideas and information from their level. And this time now we are saying let the independent dealers also be looked at as they make their policies so that they understand where we are also working from. I always hail the former president, by Mwai Kibaki, because the independence we are getting, even the independent dealers, is because of the policies that Mwai Kibaki put in place. And that time that he put those policies, he also made it easy for us to get vehicles. Those times, you would just buy a vehicle from the local companies. Today, we'll get vehicles, second-hand vehicles, and almost everyone has a vehicle today. So the demand is high. The market is not as the same market as it was that time. He also brought in, liberalized, bringing in motorbikes, and there were no taxes on the motorbikes. That's why the young people have taxes. This one also is impacting on the amount of fuel that we consume as a country. Now, the government should sit down and consider about these independent dealers, because we are economy drivers. Over 50%, we are not few. We are the people that are fueling the very rural people, because the multinationals, they cannot be able to fuel the rural people. They will look at margins, they will look at volumes. As if you are one person running one pump, in the rural areas, you're making your small money and it is good for you. But now if we don't look at the dynamics and look at the cost of selling that fuel, then we will keep with the small margins that we had given. For example, now, for the retailer, you're supposed to get 4 shillings. 4 shillings, which is not bad money if you're making volumes. But these 4 shillings is, you're talking about 4 shillings when we are selling diesel at 70 shillings. Now it's 4 shillings when you're selling diesel at 170-something shillings. Imagine the interest on this capital, because every money has interest. If you borrowed from the bank, you're paying interest. If it's your money, you're paying interest on that money. And the margins are still the same. Now, the sad thing is that even these margins, our market is usually very volatile. And for now, it's been for a long period that we've not been getting sustainable profits. And remember that our market is regulated. It's not where I'll say, I'm taking this fuel to where Kakuma, and the transport is far, and all the harsh conditions, and the people that I'm expecting to buy, then I give my prices. I am given a price, so I am capped. And therefore, the margins are dictated from the word go. And they are not constant. For example, like today, let's talk about the dollar. When the dollar goes up, fuel goes up. And it does not go up on 14th. It goes up that very day. Like now, we have a shortage of dollars in this country. We have a very big shortage in the market. Now, the OMCs, or the people that are importing fuel, they will bring fuel. And the KPLC, or the KPC will calculate for them as per the central bank margins, the rates of the central bank. But now they have to buy this dollar from the market. Let's today, central bank is giving at 123. KPC will calculate for you at 123. You go and buy the dollar today, you are buying from the market at 126. Already for $1 you have lost 3 shillings. $1 you've lost 3 shillings. So when it comes to the market now, this pushes to us as the retailers, because definitely they have to return their money. They have to push to us. On the other hand, we have something that we call subsidy. This is what you've talked about. The government is trying to ease the prices by giving subsidy, which is not bad. But we are doing something that is called cross-subsidy. Cross-subsidy, where right now the prices of petrol, the international prices are lower than the prices of diesel. So you're told as an importer, the amount of diesel you bring, you cancel the money that you're supposed to make from the petrol, because petrol is cheap, but they have given it a higher price. And then now you subsidize on the diesel. Now, basically in our market, it is not 50-50. You don't say I've brought 50 diesel, 50 petrol. We consume more petrol than diesel. So you're not able to balance. And now this one is bringing a problem in the amount of fuel we have in the country. On the other hand, it is also distorting the prices. Also, the subsidy that we had before, these people have not been paid. And these small shippers are the ones that help us, because the multinationals, they will bring fuel for just their stations. The small shippers are the ones that are going to bring fuel and sell to us. They sell to us as per the market price that day. It is a competitive process. So this is where we make money. If the prices are going down, we make money. If the prices are going up, that's where we lose money.
Yes.
Now, if we joke with these small shippers, what will happen is that the independent dealers will have no one to buy from, because the big shippers or the multinationals will just bring for their stations and will have no one to sell to us. And now these small shippers, their money is still held by the government, because they gave subsidies before we did the elections. 6 cycles, they are not paid. So their money is still with the government. I don't know if the government will pay them this money with the interest, that number one. Number two, this is cash flow that has been held. Now they cannot be able to import as much as the fuel they would have imported. And therefore now the market, we have to rely on high prices, because the few people that are bringing also, they will want to take advantage of the situation.
Yes.
So fuel is quite a volatile environment that should be looked at in a very attentive manner, because fuel drives the economy. If our prices are up, it means our cost of production is up.
Yes.
So it's not only affecting us as the dealers, it's affecting the whole economy. And so many policies that are made, I would request that they are looked at from every dimension, so that we don't kill the fuel industry, we don't also leave it for the multinationals, because basically business people are business people. When I go to become a business person, I do it ruthlessly. I want to make money, I want to make profits. So if we give a leeway for the multinationals to be able to bring fuel alone, as we saw the last subsidy cycle, some of the multinationals said they posted supernormal profits they have never posted before. Where did they get this money to post these profits? It's from our pockets, because as we are operating at dismal or basically no margins. So we are requesting, let the government look at every situation.
Yes.
Yes.
Pretty much. So let's talk about these margins, because that's where the conversation begins. That you're looked at as a multinational who essentially will go outside there, get their fuel for these particular stations, and that's that. And this is a question that I'm picking from one of the conversations that accrued once we did an interview again touching on this particular one. And this is what somebody said: are the multinationals pushing the independent oil marketers from the economy? Is that what they are targeting? Because somebody said, this subsidy, who does it favor? Does it favor somebody with a bigger margin in terms of volume, or does it favor this small entrepreneur in this particular industry who's trying to help the government touch the grassroots level where this multinational is not? Could you help us understand, when they say that there is a subsidy already that is going to go to all the independent, to all the marketers in the country, who does it favor? And at what point do you start to feel the pinch as an independent oil marketer as opposed to a multinational in the country?
Now, the subsidy favors the economy. It helps the consumer to buy the product at a price that they can be able to afford.
Yes.
And also to be able to avoid inflation. So subsidy is good. But the way the subsidy is carried out is what brings problems. Because now if you do subsidy, and I'll tell you, Simba, bring your fuel, sell with less than 20 shillings, I'll refund your money. I don't refund the first month. I don't refund the second month. The margins you operate with, even the OMCs, you're not getting half. It's still few shillings, it's 4 shillings. Now you put your millions of money, and the amount of money you're waiting for is very minimal, and you don't know when this money will come. I was talking to these OMCs, and they were saying, government, give us even treasury bonds. We go and liquidate them in the market, so we have money to be able to buy. Subsidy is good. This is a form of something that the government always does when there are those dynamics in the market. But also it should be carried out in a manner that it does not kill the small players. Now with the subsidy regime, what happens is that the big players, they have the money, they have the resource, they have the capital, so they will continue benefiting. And now, because when they continue like that, we have a monopolistic kind of market. They are the ones that will sell. They'll detect the prices. You either buy or leave it. And that was what was happening before. And if we continue also with this subsidy, it is also bringing a lot of trouble, even if we are quiet. It's bringing a lot of ups and downs in our market.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about taxation in areas, because that's where the bigger conversation is then. Because whatever you want to be understood in the industry, you're saying, do not treat me as a multinational. I'm not a multinational. Treat me as an independent oil marketer. Let's talk about taxation. And I want us to begin from VAT. You are on note saying VAT for an independent marketer is bad business practice in the country. Because if you push VAT to independent marketers, then what you're doing is essentially pushing them out of business. Irene, for anybody who's listening to you, because we don't know what VAT is charged on fuel in the country, could you extrapolate for us and say, you see, if you still charge VAT, then I do not make money at the end of the day, before we get to other ones called corporation tax?
Now, VAT is not only bad for the independent oil marketer. VAT is bad for the retail sector of fuel.
Yes.
So whether it is independent or the multinationals, when we come to the petrol station selling and what is charged, that's where the problem is. Because VAT is 8%. And this is 8% of value added.
Yes.
Now, because ours is a controlled market, we are given prices on 14th. You cannot go beyond that price. It means now, in their calculation, they have done the cost, they have put transport, they have put margin, they have also put 8% VAT. So you're supposed, after you sell, they expect you to be having the 8% there.
Yes.
But now, as I said before, is that these margins are not constant. They have given you 4, but sometimes you make 1. Like 2 days before, we were making diesel 1 shilling.
Well, could you explain? Because that's why it becomes form. When they expect the margin to be 4 shillings, what would make you, as an independent oil marketer, to make 1 shilling as the margin?
Because of the dynamics in selling the fuel.
Yes.
The prices of the fuel, as I said before, they change every day. We get the prices like Forex every day. One, the dollar rates affects the fuel prices. Also, the amount of fuel we have in the depot affects. If the ship that is bringing the fuel delays a bit, and the ones that have their small fuel know it has delayed, then they increase the prices. So there are so many things that affect these prices.
Which essentially the government, again, doesn't control, isn't it?
No, it does not control that. And also remember, we don't have a wholesale cap, because if we had a wholesale cap, we will know if you are given 4 shillings, then the wholesaler should always make sure that you have the 4 shillings.
Is the margin.
But now, because of the dynamics of the business, there is no wholesale cap. If they can be able to give a wholesale cap, then we know if you have said it is 4 shillings plus 8%, then I have my money. It is guaranteed, but it is never guaranteed. So that one makes it very difficult to give the VAT. If you are a manufacturer, you'll calculate the amount of money you have used, the cost of production, you'll put all your costs, then you put plus VAT. You push it to the consumer. If you are selling hardware, you calculate all your costs, then you plus VAT. In our business, it's not so. If I bring my fuel, I have lost it on transit. So many times we lose it on transit, we lose it at the pump, we lose it at the depot. You don't carry the whole amount that you bought, and this is another area that the government should look at, because it should be protecting us. We are paying taxes. It should be protecting us, using the weights and measures, that we get the actual amount that we have bought. Now, you've brought this fuel, you have had all these losses, so your cost of production is high, but you cannot add plus the 8%. Yet the taxman expects that they provided for you to be having the 8%, and therefore you should pay. Now, this concept is becoming very serious, when after 4 years, the taxman will come and say, you have not been submitting VAT, and because our system is self-assessment, you looked at what you made that month. Maybe the prices were bad, you made low margins, so the VAT that you are able to submit was too minimal. They'll come and say, you have cooked books. This is not the right thing to do. And when we look at them, your turnovers, because remember 1.7 million is getting you 10,000. But they'll look at the turnovers. This 1.7 you buy today, you buy tomorrow, you buy the other day. So at the end of the month, you have quite a big turnover.
Yes.
Say this turnover, you cannot be making this amount of tax you have paid. So they'll give you a markup of 16% or 20%. This is not money that you have ever seen in your entire life. And this is the money they will require. And that's why we are saying VAT on fuel is just punitive. It's not workable. It's causing us to feel like every time we are working, there's something looming in the dark waiting to strike at us. Number two, if you are to be eligible for VAT, you should have a turnover of 5 million. In our business, a person that is doing a turnover of 5 million per year is selling like 27,000 liters of fuel. Now, let us assume there are no these hulabalos. He has made the 4 shillings that the government has provided for us. This person will make like 101,000 shillings per year. This is like 9,000 something. Let's give him 10,000 shillings per month.
Yes.
This is good money for somebody who's in the rural areas with these 2 pumps there and selling himself. That's good money. That's money that can pay him, and he's a rich person in the neighborhood, and he has money turning over. But let's come to the taxman. He'll come and say, you're supposed to pay VAT. Right now we are buying this electronic machine, which is costing how much? 45,000.
Yes.
It means you have taken 5 months of the labor of that person to just purchase that ETR machine. Now you see, it is not logical. And when you go to the taxman, he will follow the law. He will not be like, oh, you are making this small amount of money. He does not want to know. He just knows the law. If you're making the turnover of 5 million, you should be having an ETR machine. Then let's now come to now the major one. You're supposed to give a receipt at the point of sale. So for every motorist that comes to your station, you're supposed to give a receipt. Now I want you to imagine, most of our motorists, especially in the rural areas, are motorbike people. And even in towns and cities, if you have your small personal car, you go to the office and come back, most likely you fuel 500, 200, 1,000. Now let's take the motorbike guy who is purchasing 30 shillings.
Yes.
And now you're supposed to give this person an ETR receipt. If you calculate the receipt, you calculate the cost of the receipt, the labor of the person that is giving. And then you look at the margin. This is 180 shillings product that is making 4 shillings. You are making 0.0 something margin, and then add the receipt on top of it. And the funny thing is that this motorbike guy does not know where to take this receipt. So sometimes he'll not even wait for the receipt. But now, when the KRA man wants money,
yes,
what does he do? He'll just drive into the petrol station or come walking or come on a motorbike. You sell. You have not given a receipt, and you're given a fine. What is the fine? Not exceeding 1 million.
Ooh.
Over what? So these are things we tried to talk with KRA.
Yes.
They said, we see this one is not workable. You don't need to give the receipt. But what happened? Later they brought demand letters, and then we are paying fines.
Guess what, Irene? I want us to take a tiny break. Once we come back, I want us to pick from there. Because again, you're also saying in that even corporation tax for this particular industry doesn't make sense. But we do know that some of your members have even tried to ask the government to review the fuel prices in the country at least twice a month. So you can actually get to factor some of these losses you're talking about. Once we come back, do you think that is something that can be done? Even if they insist, you gotta pay VAT, you gotta pay corporation tax, and you gotta use your ETR machines whatsoever. Once we come back, we're still talking about the pain of the independent oil marketers at the pump. Continue talking to us at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. I am Akia Gesimba. Hungry?